Welcome back to Two Brothers Comics, and today I'm not coming to you as Dustin, the comic book collector, the guy who consistently says, this is my plan, these are the things I'm going to be picking up, and then completely changes it, goes off the rails, ends up picking up 100 other things except for what I said I was going to. Today, I'm coming to you as the comic book chiropractor. A lot of you know that I started pressing and cleaning comic books about a year ago. And I wanted to do a video and bring you guys some tips. Just some helpful little things to keep in mind when you're at Comic-Cons or anywhere you may be purchasing comic books. Just based on some things that I see on the regular from my customers. Now, a lot of these things that I'm going to be talking about are things that I consistently see, and I have to break the hearts of customers because they didn't check these things, or they didn't they were just completely unaware that they were there. Just some things to help you when you're purchasing raw comic books, especially to make sure that you're getting exactly what you want and what you're paying for. So let's jump into this list here. The first thing that I think that most people, and this is a very easy thing, most people don't do when you're looking at a raw comic. Now, all of this is going to be related to raw comics. When you're looking at a raw comic book, you always check the spine, right? You're checking the spine. Do we got any ticks? Do we got any color breaks? Then we check the corners. We say, okay, man, this is a near mint copy. This is a 9/8 candidate. But you never took it out of the bag. Baby, don't hurt me. Did you ever look at the back of that book? Did you check the back cover? So many times we don't check the back covers of these comic books, and that is where we can have tons of little things hiding that are going to kill the grade on that book, especially if you're looking for 9/8s. You're going to find color rub back there a lot of times. You're going to find spine ticks that break color. You're going to find little tears. You're going to find creases. You're going to find a lot of dirt, especially on older books. You may even find some writing on the back of those covers. And if you only look at that front cover, if you base your opinion of the grade of the book just purely on that front cover, then you are shorting yourself, because that back cover has just as much effect on the grade as the front cover does. So guys, always take that book out of the bag and board. And if they don't want you to do it, if you don't feel comfortable, have the person do it for you. But always check the back of the book. Always. Very simple. Now that you have that book out of the bag and board, you might as well go ahead and check a couple other things. Another thing, and I see this consistently, guys, and this is something that is a really big heartbreaker for a lot of people. Check the centerfold. Flip all the way to the middle of the book. 90% of comics are going to have 16 pages. So you're going to have 8 wraps. So you flip the first 8 pages and boom, you should be dead center of that book 90% of the time. Check the staples, guys. Check the staples on the spine. Make sure there's no rust in there, because a lot of times there can be a little bit of rust and it can be right there at the staple hole. And then you open the book up. Maybe the staples look great on the outside. You open the book up and then bam, they're rusted to pieces on the inside, or maybe the rust is starting on the inside. Maybe you have some detached pages, which is another big thing. You'll never know if this book has detached pages on the inside if you're just looking at that front cover inside the bag and board. So while it may look like a 9.4, 9.6 Silver Age, monster, and then you open the book up and guess what? It's got 4 wraps detached inside. Now a wrap is going to be 2 pages. They print them out in one big fold and then they fold them together. So that's a wrap. So you have actually, 1, 2, 3, 4 pages on one wrap. You would not believe the amount of books that I go through for customers, and I find that we have multiple detached pages sometimes. Now, sometimes all it takes is just very carefully knowing what you're doing when you do this. Opening the prongs of the staples and just placing the page back in there, and if there's paper there that can hold it intact, then you can actually reattach it using the same staples. There's no restoration there. And as long as you're able to do it correctly, you're going to be okay. But sometimes you have complete blowouts, which means the paper where the staple was attached at is completely gone. It's just completely ripped out. And you're never going to know that if you don't open it up and check those staples. Use these things, these defects, to try to get that price lowered down so you can get a better price on this book. Sometimes, I guarantee you, sometimes you're going to be able to shock some of the people that are selling you the book because they haven't done this.
I'm shocked.
I've done this myself, so I know that is a fact. That a lot of these sellers at these shows, they don't have time to open up and look through every book. So if you're doing it, then you're going to be able to get a better price on them as well. But we always want to make sure we check the staples, check the centerfold, make sure we don't have detached pages because that is a big deal. Now, while we have the book open, we're out of the bag and board, we've checked the back cover, we've checked the front cover, we've checked our staples. Count your pages. Like I said, most books are going to have 16 pages. Okay? You're going to have 8 wraps to the front, 8 wraps to the back, and you have 16 pages total. Count those pages. Make sure they're all there. Because someone could have ripped a page out and ripped out a whole wrap even. Well, if a whole wrap is missing, you're going to get hit for missing a total of 4 pages. So while you may only be missing 2 physical pages, you're missing 4 pages of story because you have front and back on both sides. So that is going to kill your grade as well. So make sure you're counting your wraps. Like I said, most of the time, on a standard issue comic, unless it's like a Mark Jewelers, Mark Jewelers is going to add another wrap, so that's going to give you 9 and 9, so an 18-page book, a giant size, stuff like that is obviously going to be different, but for a standard issue comic, most of the time you're going to have 16 pages. Now, while you are counting those pages, give a good glance at each page. Make sure that you don't have big rips and chunks taken out, and check for pen, because a lot of times back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you're gonna have ads in there where you can fill out forms and mail it in to get a new Spider-Man shirt or something like that. And a lot of times people would fill those in. They may not even cut them out and mail them in, but they would fill those in. So you may have people who have written inside the book in pen, which is going to hurt your grade of your book again. Maybe they used pencil and we can erase that, get it out of there, and you're going to be fine. But always check for that. I have even seen in a Fantastic Four, I believe it was issue number 18, the first appearance of the Super Skrull. This book was beautiful. It was at least a 7.5 copy. Until I started going through the pages of the book and I noticed that every single panel where the Invisible Girl was invisible, at that time they would show her to be invisible by having like dotted lines outlining her. Someone took a pen and traced the dotted lines every single panel of the Invisible Girl. Now, that's something that you're going to have to really be paying attention to catch, because I almost missed it. But I was reading the Fantastic Four at that time, so I kind of knew. I was like, did they change the way that she was depicted in here and get rid of the dotted lines? And as I looked in closer, I noticed, no, somebody filled this in with pen. So that is another thing you really have to check for too, especially in the older books, because at this time, a lot of kids were reading these. They weren't thinking about these being collectible. So make sure that that's something you're looking at too. Big chunks, tears, stray pen marks, anything like that on these pages, just give them a good look while you're counting your pages and making sure that they're all there. Now, before we close the book up and put it away, we want to check the interior of the front and back cover. We've already checked the exterior front and back cover. We know what's there, but we want to check the interior for foxing and tanning that may not be as prevalent on the exterior front and back cover. But we also want to look for bleed through of any kind of ink that was not supposed to be there, aka color touch. A lot of times it's going to be a whole lot easier for you to look on the inside of that book and look right along the spine there and right along the outside edges, and you'll be able to see where the ink bled through from whatever pen or marker or whatever someone tried to use to touch it up and get rid of some color breaks, that is going to hit you for restoration, and that is something that you can definitely get a better price on that book for if it was not already priced accordingly and you know, noted that it was there. A lot of collectors do not like that stuff. Do not like that. I'm not a big fan of color touch myself, so you know, the worst thing you could do is spend, you know, $3,000-$4,000 or however much on a comic book expecting it to be, you know, a certain grade, and then it comes back with that purple label saying restoration, light color touch, or whatever. And a lot of times, I'm telling you guys, you can catch it with your bare eye just by inspecting the interior of the front and back cover just with your bare eyes and some decent lighting. You'll be able to see where that ink is bleeding through, and you'll be able to tell that's not supposed to be there. And the last thing is, and this is something else that is going to be a major effect on your grade, and a lot of people don't think about this. You may have a book, say we're talking about a Hulk 181, Incredible Hulk 181. And this was something that it took me a minute to learn because, well, I actually had a copy that this was a problem with. I had a 2.5 Incredible Hulk 181. Now I cracked that open and I had it pressed and cleaned. This was before I started doing it. And I expected this grade to bump up quite a bit. There was a little bit of paper transfer on the cover as well, and that we got rid of all that. So I was expecting a decent grade bump here because the spine looked really, really good. I was thinking we could probably get this to like a 4.0, maybe even a 5 if I was lucky. However, there was a color break that started at the bottom of the book and ran probably almost 3/4 up the way of that front cover. That is something a lot of people don't think about. The length of a color break. You could have a 9.8 presenting book, but if you have a color break that is running 2, 3, 4, 5 inches long, that is going to kill the grade of that book. Absolutely kill the grade of the book. It doesn't matter if it's on the front cover, back cover, spine, wherever. The length of color breaks will drastically affect the grade of the comic book for you. You could have 2 or 3 very, just minor, very tiny color breaks. 2, 3 of those, and that will hurt your grade less than if you have a full 1 inch just out there color break, and that might be the only one. That will hurt your grade a lot worse than having several very tiny, hard to see ones, because it's all about the length when it comes to these color breaks. That's what they grade these on. Well, that's what they tell us anyway. Sometimes I don't really know that everybody up there follows the rules that they say they do, but that's another video for another day. And I think that one's coming too, because I'm about sick of it. But make sure that you're inspecting the length of these color breaks when you're trying to decide what grade you think this is going to fall in, because if you have some of those on there that are pretty lengthy, that is definitely going to affect the grade of the book, which is affecting the price of the book. And you want to make sure that you are getting a price when you buy these books that is accurate to the condition of the book. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hopefully some of these tips are something that you can use when you're out at the Comic-Cons, out at your shops, buying online, YouTube auctions, Instagram auctions, wherever. Keep these things in the back of your mind and make sure that you're checking them, especially on any significant purchases, because I promise it'll save you a lot of money and a lot of heartache down the road for sure. If you guys have any questions about pressing or cleaning, hit me up on Instagram, comic_chiropractor. That is comic_chiropractor on Instagram. You guys can hit me up with any questions or concerns. I'm always available and happy to help as much as I can. And if I don't know the answer, I know the people that do, and I will help you find the answer to that question. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, drop me a comment and let me know what you thought. Let me know if you guys have run into any of these problems. Hit the thumbs up, and as always, guys, collect your way.